The generator kicked twice before it caught, and for a second, the whole ICU sat in that grey, almost dark that makes everyone's face look 10 years older. "There it is," I said, more to myself than to anyone, watching the monitors reboot one screen at a time. "Told the board we needed a new one 2 years ago." Dr. Isaac Whitfield didn't look up from the medication cart he was restocking, his voice flat the way it got when he was tired and didn't want anyone to notice. "Nobody listens until the lights actually go out." I'd been at Sterling County Memorial 4 months, long enough to know Isaac Whitfield had a reputation for being difficult, short enough that I still flinched a little every time he corrected me in front of a patient. He wasn't cruel about it. He was just exact, in a way that made you feel like you'd failed a test you didn't know you were taking. "Storm's not letting up," I said, nodding toward the window, where the parking lot lights had turned the snow into a slow gold static. "County cancelled the plows an hour ago. My neighbor texted me a picture of her car. You can't even tell it's a car anymore." "Then I guess you're staying." "I guess we both are." He finally looked at me then, just for a second, like he was recalculating something. "I already called my sister, told her not to wait up." A pause. "You should probably let someone know too." I texted my mother, "Home safe, don't worry, weather's bad," and didn't mention that I wasn't actually home, that I was standing in a hospital that suddenly felt very small and very quiet, except for the wind clawing at the windows like it wanted in. By 9, we'd lost 2 more beds worth of non-essential monitoring to conserve power, moved a confused elderly patient named Mr. Delacroix closer to the nurse's station so he wouldn't be alone, and run out of the good coffee. By 10, it was just Isaac, me, one exhausted respiratory tech named Priya, who'd claimed the recliner in the break room the second she got a spare minute, and a security guard named Walt, who kept doing rounds like the building might grow a new exit if he checked often enough. "You always this calm during a disaster?" I asked Isaac. "Or is this a special occasion?" "I'm not calm, I'm just quiet about it." He capped a vial, set it down with more care than it needed. "You want to see me not calm? Ask me about the ventilator budget." I laughed before I meant to, and something in his face shifted, just barely, like he hadn't expected that either. We ended up in the small break room around midnight, because Mr. Delacroix had finally drifted off and the halls had gone still in that particular hush hospitals get after 11, when even the machines seem to breathe slower. Isaac made instant coffee that tasted like a memory of coffee, and we sat across the scuffed table from each other, with our hands wrapped around chipped mugs, not really talking, just existing in the same warm rectangle of light, while outside the world disappeared white inch by white inch. "Can I ask you something?" I said, "and you don't have to answer." Ominous start. "Why'd you become a doctor?" Real answer, not the interview one. He turned his mug slowly on the table, thinking about it longer than I expected. "My dad had a heart attack when I was 15. Small town, nearest hospital 40 minutes out, and the guy who worked on him in the ambulance talked to him the entire way, kept him calm, kept him with us. My dad used to say he didn't remember the pain, he remembered the voice." He shrugged, like it embarrassed him to say out loud. "I wanted to be the voice." I didn't say anything for a second because I didn't trust my own voice not to do something stupid with all that. "What about you?" he said. Real answer. "My little brother had asthma attacks that terrified me my entire childhood. I used to sit outside the ER with my mum, feeling completely useless. I promised myself I'd never be the person standing in the hallway not knowing what to do again." I turned my mug too, an unconscious echo of him. "So here I am. Still in a hallway technically, but at least now I know what to do." "You do," he said, quiet and certain, and it landed somewhere under my ribs I wasn't prepared for. "For what it's worth. I've watched you tonight." "You do." I wanted to ask him if that was the closest thing to a compliment he was capable of giving, but Walt's radio crackled from the hall, a call about a jackknife truck 2 miles out, injuries unknown, ambulance already stuck behind a snowbank on Route 6, and just like that, the warm rectangle of light snapped back into a hospital in the middle of a blizzard with 2 people, and not nearly enough certainty about what came next. We didn't get patients from that crash. County rerouted them to a bigger facility once a second ambulance finally clawed through. But the adrenaline stuck around in my chest for an hour after, humming under my skin the way it does when your body's ready for something that never arrives. Isaac found me refilling the supply cart, just to have something to do with my hands. "You're rattled," he said. "I'm fine. You restocked the same shelf twice." I looked down. He was right. I laughed, a little shaky, and he reached out, not touching me, just resting his hand near mine on the cart, close enough that the space between us felt like its own kind of conversation. "It's okay to be rattled," he said. "I was rattled my whole first year. Anyone who tells you they're not lying, mostly to themselves." "Even you?" "Especially me." A small, crooked, almost smile. "I just hide it better. Comes with practice, and with being told by an attending in year 1 that I looked like I might cry in front of a family, which, fair, I probably did. I don't know exactly when the conversation stopped being about the storm, or the crash that didn't come, or even the hospital at all. But somewhere past 1 in the morning, we were sitting on the floor of the supply room with our backs against the shelving, sharing the last protein bar Priya hadn't already claimed, and I was telling him about the winter my family lost power for 6 days and how my dad turned it into a game so my brother wouldn't be scared, and he was telling me about the first patient he lost and how he still remembered her daughter's exact words, and it felt less like 2 co-workers killing time and more like something being built, plank by plank, out of nothing but honesty and bad coffee and the fact that neither of us could leave. "I have to ask," I said eventually, "because it's been driving me a little crazy since my 2nd week here. Are you always this hard on new nurses, or did I do something specific to earn it?" He winced, actually winced. "Is that how it felt?" "Sometimes." "I'm sorry, truly." He rubbed a hand over his jaw. "I had a nurse my 2nd year miss something because I was too soft with my corrections, too worried about being liked. A patient nearly paid for it. I promised myself after that I'd rather be respected than adored." He glanced at me sideways. "Doesn't mean I got the balance right, with you especially." "Why especially me?" He didn't answer right away, and the silence stretched out long enough that I felt my pulse pick up in a way that had nothing to do with jackknifed trucks. "Because I noticed you faster than I wanted to," he finally said. "And it made me overcorrect. Figured if I kept things strictly professional, loudly professional, I wouldn't have to think about it." Outside, the wind seemed to hold its breath right along with me. "And now?" I asked. "Now we're snowed into a building together until sunrise, and I've apparently decided honesty is easier than dignity." He almost smiled. "So, now I'm not sure the strategy's working." I thought about all the ways this could go wrong. The schedule we'd still have to share Monday, the chart notes, the small-town hospital where everyone would know within a week if something happened between the new nurse and the notoriously private cardiologist, the version of this story where it becomes awkward instead of good. And then I thought about my brother's inhaler, and the voice in the ambulance that became someone's whole career, and how sometimes you spend so long being careful that you forget carefulness was only ever supposed to be a means, not the entire point. "I don't know what this is yet," I said, "but I'd like to find out, slowly, somewhere that isn't a supply closet during a state of emergency." "Slowly," he agreed, and there was real relief in it, like he'd been braced for a different answer. "I can do slowly." We didn't kiss that night. Some part of both of us understood the storm was making promises the daylight would have to actually keep, and it felt more honest to wait and see who we were once the roads cleared than to let one strange, suspended night decide everything. Instead, we sat there until nearly 4, shoulders touching, watching the snow finally start to thin outside the small window near the ceiling, trading smaller and smaller pieces of ourselves the way people do when they've decided, without saying it out loud, that they want there to be a tomorrow worth showing up honest for. By 7, the plows had cut through Route 6. The day shift trickled in stamping snow off their boots and complaining about their commutes, and Mr. Delacroix woke up asking for pancakes like the whole night hadn't happened at all. Isaac walked me to the doors when my replacement finally clocked in, both of us blinking against a sun so bright off the fresh snow it looked almost fake. So, I said, coffee, an actual cup, made by an actual machine, someplace that isn't on fire, metaphorically. I know a place, he said. Terrible pastries, good coffee. I'll take those odds. I drove home slow through streets still half buried, and somewhere around my third red light, I caught myself smiling for no reason a stranger could have named, thinking about how the whole town would wake up today complaining about the storm that ruined their Tuesday, never knowing it had quietly handed two stubborn, overly careful people something neither of them had been brave enough to ask for on their own. I still wonder sometimes whether it would have happened anyway, storm or no storm, given enough ordinary Tuesdays, or whether some things only find their nerve when the whole world outside goes quiet and white and leaves you no choice but to finally say the true thing out loud.